So we have Darnika Riley from Intel. We have Beth Nickel from the Arizona Science Center. Julie Euber from TGen. And we have Damon from the ASU Prep Academy, which I'm sure most of you have heard about too. So our first question is, briefly describe your educational and professional background and how you utilize your STEM background within education. And for Damon, along with that, how have you seen those with the background, expertise, or passion for STEM transition into education? So we can go ahead and get started with you, Darnika.
Okay. So quick educational background. My undergrad and master's degree are in the pre-data science world, which is called information systems with an emphasis in application development. I actually came to Intel from Toyota. I used to work in the project center doing software development projects at Toyota. Then I moved into the office of CIO, and I used to design and implement the key performance indicator dashboards that talked about the health of the information systems organization of Toyota to Japan, and then got recruited by Intel to help restructure the whole networking infrastructure for the company. And now I'm in an organization called Internet of Things. I'm in the planning and product line management organization, which means that anything that we sell from that organization starts off in my group. We deal with the hardware and software as well as what the platform looks like, what the IOs look like, and then how can we sell it into the different, and I say use conditions, which meaning how are they going to be used. So I guess I should probably level set. Does everyone know what Internet of Things is?
I've heard the expression.
Okay, it's compute in anything that's not a server, desktop, or laptop. If you're putting compute in anything that's not one of those form factors, it's called a thing.
Okay, well, I'm Beth Nickel, as stated, from Arizona Science Center. When I looked at this question, I had to think, because I'm kind of from a little bit of a different background. I'm really, I have my degree, my undergraduate and 2 master's degree in education, and have then come into the world of STEM through the education background. So, you know, growing up, always really found the life sciences and the physical sciences very interesting as just an interest of my own. Went to school, went through and became a teacher. And then luckily through my first couple of years in the teaching profession as an elementary, I was fortunate enough to be able to really participate in some intensive, both science and math professional developments. And in those 2 opportunities, I really gained a much stronger conceptual understanding and content knowledge base, along with the pedagogy for teaching active inquiry-based science and math activities. So I use that in my continued role as a teacher, teacher leader, administrator, etc., in order to really emphasize to those who I worked with, whether they were at the student level or the administrative level, on how to incorporate those in their classroom and really pull in and engage students in science and conceptual understanding of math. So taking that background and then looking at my current role, I use that background and that experience to really work with students and teachers and community and donors and foundation partners in understanding how we take informal science and really better utilize and take a combination and really meld the informal learning along with the formal learning in schools and communities. So a kind of a different background.
Hi, I'm Julie, and I went to get my bachelor's degree at Indiana University, and I did anthropology and English with a minor in biology. So I was one of those students that just liked all the things. Like I wanted to take all the different classes, but I can't find like one thing that I really enjoy because I just like all the things, right? So I had an idea what I was going to do after college, but I wasn't quite sure. So I went to the career center, was talking to someone, and the counselor said, you know, you strike me as the kind of person that doesn't do the same thing their entire life. And I was like, how dare you? I'm going to do the same thing my whole life. And I left. I didn't come back. Well, it turns out I already in my second career. So he was right, to be fair. And I think I had to get used to that because it's not something you're necessarily told growing up. You're kind of told, okay, what do you want to be? Pick one. Firefighter, teacher, you know. But it turns out there are so many careers in just whatever you're interested in, that what I decided I wanted to do was kind of chase that next problem I wanted to solve. And that's how I would find my career. So I did a year of City Year in New York, which is a community service program similar to AmeriCorps. And then I came to ASU to get a PhD in bioarchaeology. So I was studying skeletal remains on archaeological sites. I got to excavate in Guam. I did work with different kind of skeletal remains and molds from Easter Island to Illinois, you name it. There was just so much cool stuff going on, and I really loved the teaching aspect of it. And so I realized what was really interesting to me is I could really tell the difference between my students that read about digging square holes and the ones that actually got to go out in the field with me and work with the data and work in the dirt, literally. So I got really excited about education outside the classroom. So that's why I decided I was going to stop with my master's and I was going to go and find a way to do that. So I've been at TGen ever since. TGen is the Translational Genomics Research Institute. We're a private nonprofit that uses the genome to improve the lives of patients. And what I get to do is I get to work with students, the general public, really anyone that wants to know more about what TGen is doing. So I manage our internship program, our new high school program, tours, speaker requests. I get to be right at that center point where the general public and students meets with this really exciting science. So I've been able to find a mold where I could do those things I was interested in. All you.
All right. Hi, I'm Dr. Damon Twist. I'm a lifelong educator. I came to educational work through an organization named Teach for America in the early 90s when it was brand new. So I don't have a STEM background. However, I do have something in common with a lot of STEM teachers and candidates who I meet, and that is deciding that they would like to enter into education, having not been an education major necessarily. So I was placed to teach in inner city Washington, D.C. I thought I would do that for 2 years and then revert to my plans to go to law school. And obviously, I'm sitting here talking to you over 20 years later. I spent a total of 8 years as a classroom teacher. Then life brought me here to Phoenix. I became a school leader. I was a principal in the Creighton district here in Central Phoenix for about 10 years. I was on staff with Teach for America as a senior leader for several years. And now I manage human resources for ASU Prep, which is a network of charter schools chartered here through the university. So I have a lot of district experience and a lot of charter experience as well. So I work alongside a colleague, and we take care of all the day-to-day operations, including recruiting and hiring for our schools, many of which have a STEM focus. And you had asked me to speak specifically to transition into education for people who have a passion for STEM. I think it's really just overgeneralized, right? It really comes down to those people also finding a passion for education as well, and a passion for teaching. Obviously, if you weren't an education major, then it may be something you find later. That was the case with me as well. But generally, people who have a deep love for their content, I see be highly successful if they also have a deep love for education and students. Because just having a deep love for your content area it doesn't translate so well into the complexities and the frustrations that come along with being a classroom teacher every day. So I think that those people who I see who just love math, and I love kids, I love teaching, I have a lot of patience, I really want to see kids grow, tend to be very successful. Candidates who tend to say, well, I'm a math major and I don't know what else to do, and I thought I'd give it a try, and there's nothing else really better out there at the moment, tend to leave the profession pretty quickly from my experience.
The information. So our next question is, describe your current position, which most of you know. What are some characteristics that one should have to be successful in this industry or in your functional area? And Damon, from a hiring perspective, what are some characteristics that one should have to be successful in K-12 education for teaching? I'll start with you again, Darnika.
Okay, so describe my current position. Well, actually, I want to take a couple steps back. because I have one toe into education and a foot and a half into my current role. I actually do my current role to allow me to play in my passion area, which is educating youth. Educating youth about the importance of STEM, how they can grow in STEM, that they can do STEM. That's actually the biggest thing, is being that spark, showing that little girl or that little boy that it is an opportunity and that anyone can do it. And what STEM or engineering is at the end of the day is problem solving. And having that mindset and being able to shift children's perspective to go, I can versus I can't. And engaging them before the age of 3rd grade, that is key, because science shows if you can show a child that they can do math and science by 3rd grade, once peer pressure kicks in 4th, 5th, and 6th, it's harder to dissuade them that they can't. So I intentionally get in front of younger children as well as parents to show how do you foster kids to really play in this area. Because a lot of times, yeah, they're going to be destructive and they're going to break a lot of stuff at home. But you know what? That's actually a good thing, because it shows that they're curious and that they want to figure out how something works. So I put a lot of time into talking to parents, and working at Intel gives me that time through our Intel Involved. I get to volunteer, and a lot of nonprofits that I work with, they get paid for me volunteering stuff that I love to do on the side. But going back to the actual question, what is my current role? And it's my other love and passion. It's dealing with technology. It's dealing with future. It's being innovative. It's being able to say, I'm working on products that I know will change and transform people's lives. And that is the cool thing that I love about working in the Internet of Things, especially at Intel, because I'm working on things that you won't see till 2023, 2024, 2025. And I'm going, oh, this is cool when this comes out. Can't talk about it, but this is going to be awesome. And then being able to take that same passion about making people's lives easier and directing it to kids, going, you're the next people that are going to be doing this. So I want to make sure that you're armed with all the skills and the passion to keep pushing us forward as a society. So I don't think I answered the question exactly, but
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right, so as I stated before, I am the Chief Learning Officer at Arizona Science Center. And so what that means is basically I oversee all of our educational programming, both for students. We have programs on site, and we also spend a lot of our time off-site at schools and in communities doing programming. And then I'll also oversee our teacher professional development program, which is really growing in its scope as well. And so, you know, a lot, you were talking about the passion and what it means to, you know, do STEM. We hear that all the time with the kids and the teachers, you know, I don't really do science, I don't really do STEM, and one of the things that we always start with is look around you. It's everywhere. It's not something different. You know, science is everywhere. You've got a computer in your hand, you know, really looking at what they do every day and how that relates to their whether they're a student or a teacher. We spend a lot of time really focusing on how to activate kids and really open up that curiosity and that interest that they have. Reminding them, and it's good to be curious, and it's good to ask questions, and it's good to solve problems, because that is how we're going to innovate in the future. And so some of the characteristics that one should have to be successful in what we do, really, as with any kind of an educator, it's, you know, you've got to be patient, you've got to be willing to collaborate, you've got to be very flexible and nimble, because 2 days are never the same. And you've got to be willing to learn and be willing to reflect on what you know and what you don't know, so that you can continue to keep that lifelong learning.
I love the lifelong learning idea, and that's what's great about working with education is you can really embrace that every single day. And it's true that not every day is the same either. And I'm going to circle back to that too, because I think that's smart to add. So in my current position, I manage all education outreach initiatives at TGen. I started managing the day-to-day operations of the program, so I got to really know how they were operating. And from there, when I was promoted, I was able to start programs that would kind of fill what we weren't doing yet, and I could make sure that the programs we were doing are continuing to excel and continuing to do what provide what students need. So our main focus is Helio Scholars at TGen, which is our internship program in the summer, paid full-time summer internship where students work on real research projects under the mentorship of TGen scientists. The role of my office is to manage that selection process, manage the recruitment, so it's getting into the ears of students that may not hear about it organically, and then to make sure that we're getting them the professional development they need so that they come out of the summer having those softer skills that they'll need to succeed as well. Beyond that, we started a new high school program that ran for the first time last summer, TGen Bioscience Leadership Academy. So we work with our scientists to build that programming. And beyond that, there's a lot of hats that you wear, and that includes tours, shadowing, speakers. So to kind of give you an idea, here's my day today. So I get to work, I get on the phone to get on the call for the advisory board for the Arizona Science Engineering Fair coming out of the Science Center. And then someone from our TGen Foundation comes into my office and wants to talk to me about collaborating on programs and what to do if he's heard from a donor whose kid didn't get into one of our programs. So talking him through those conversations, that can be very hard. Then I get a call from the lobby that students are there to shadow from the Leader Foundation. And these students have never been in a lab, but they want to know what it's like. So I get to meet those students, give them the whole grand tour. One was wearing open-toed shoes, so I had to find the environmental health and safety manager so she could wear blue booties all day. She enjoyed it, it was okay. But I had set up for scientists to greet them and let them follow them around for the day. So I set them up with those scientists. I went back to my desk for a leadership update from City of Hope, who we're affiliated with, so that I could know what's going on an organizational level. That's important if I'm going to be a spokesperson for TGen. Then I make sure the students get to where they need. And then for the culture committee, I let some of the scientists hit me in the face with a pie. And I'm still a little sticky, okay? My hair is a little bit oilier than it used to be, but my skin feels great.
Yeah.
And, because people in the Institute are gonna know me, I can actually fill that role of someone that they would know that they would maybe wanna put a pie in the face for a charity. Sure, why not? Then I came here to talk again about TGen and then what I do. So that's just one day. Every day is a little bit different. We've been very heavy on the selection committee and selection of our students. So there always is something new, and there's always a new person in front of you that you get to really find out what are their interests, and then how do I fold that into the story of what we're doing at TGen to bring our science to life. So I think characteristics that can make you successful in this role is, first of all, the willingness to continue learning. To go out there, even just when you're in the elevator with one of the scientists, you can say, okay, what's new and cool? And they're gonna tell you, and then you get to share that with the people that come in the doors of TGen. So part of it is recognizing what you need to know about the science, and part of it is really nurturing those relationships so that you can always get out there, get to know people, and work with incredible partners so that you're just getting your message out there further and further.
So specifically from a hiring perspective, some things that I look for in terms of people being successful in K-12 education is like I've jotted down 5. If you ask a different HR manager, they'll have 5 different things, I'm sure. But for me, I'm looking for like a sense of mission, a sense of calling that's bringing you to the work again. There could be 100 different reasons why you feel a sense of calling to be an educator, but you have to have one for the most part to be successful. Looking for people who have a history of perseverance. So people for whom in the interview process will test to see, are you the type of person who doesn't let anything beat you down, but you don't give up anything that you do? Because there's lots of opportunities, especially in the first year of teaching, to quit along the way. We're typically looking for someone who's got a high degree of organization, right? So even if they have not yet taught, like in college, like what they did to keep themselves organized on top of everything they were supposed to do, because the demands on a first-year teacher in terms of all the responsibilities you have to juggle is enormous. I'm looking for an orientation towards results, right? And that does not mean standardized testing necessarily, but it's an orientation that you're an evidence-based person who at the end of the year will have proof and conviction that you left your students more ready for college and they're prepared in their preferred careers than they were when they reached you. And then lastly, I would say having mostly supported communities of poverty in my career is looking for a degree of cultural competency in our educators who work with our students in our Title I communities. Preferably experience in some way, shape, or form, having lived in or worked alongside a low-income community. But if not that, then an openness, a willingness to learn, and an asset-based perspective towards said communities.
Thank you. Next question, pretty simple, but what are some rewarding and challenging aspects of your jobs?
Okay, representing the corporate company here. At Intel, because we're in so many different things, the most rewarding thing is to say, I participated in that platform that you're working on today. Or I know, or I did some little part of that device that you're carrying. And being able to influence with our skills, with software, with some of the cool things that we can come up with so we can innovate, that's probably the most rewarding because it's tangible. What we do is tangible because everything we do pretty much ends up as a product of some kind, whether it be hardware or software. So that's the easy question. What are some of the most challenging aspects? Once again, super competitive company, super hard to get into. Pretty much everyone around is a genius. Not everyone, but for the most part, Intel hires very, very, very smart people. And being able to work in teams, being able to work globally is a unique skill set that you actually have to learn to be able to say, hey, in India team, here's what we need. Malaysia and China and Israel, here's how we're gonna collaborate to get this product out the door. Ireland, okay, we need to work to make this happen. And I worked on, not in my current role, but in my previous role where essentially I restructured the global network infrastructure. It took us 8 years and 200 people to change how Intel runs their network, both for phones and how we typically access the internet. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my career, but also one of the most rewarding because I can look back at this huge team and said, we did it. We saved this company $200 million in the meantime. And you know what? We made everyone's lives more efficient because we took the wires away from their jobs. And we stopped them being tied to desks or tied to conference rooms. And now our employees can work anywhere. And it was us that we did it together to make that happen. So that's kind of rewarding and challenge at the same time, and having to always stay innovative and at the top of your game. And Intel has this thing, they're constantly reminding you, because they put it on the back of your badge, of things you should be doing to stay relevant as an employee. And risk taking is one of them. And you can take risk and they can go really, really well, or you can take risk and they can bomb. But at the end of the day, is it informed? And that's the challenge that we're always having to weigh.
All right. So the rewards and what we do at the Arizona Science Center, well, they're huge. I mean, just, you know, whether you're walking around the floor of one of the 4 floors of the Science Center and you know, see the field trips come in or the families come in and the kids and the adults of all ages are engaging and experiencing science and tech and engineering and math activities and hands-on experiences, and seeing that they are enjoying and engaging and being inspired by what they're doing there at the Arizona Science Center is just absolutely fantastic. Take that outside the center. When we go to a school, we take an entire team of anywhere from 8 to 13 people we take over a school. And so we've got teacher professional development happening with one of our professional development facilitators, working on whatever it is that, whether it's STEM integration or problem-based learning or engineering design process. And then the rest of the team is working with those students on science and engineering concepts. So they might be doing dissections in one class, they might be investigating zombie contagions and outbreaks in another, and they might be doing an engineering design activity in a third. So just engaging the kids and seeing the kids and their expressions of what they're learning and how they're like, you know, this is really cool, or I didn't think I would like this. And squishy science isn't that bad, which is what we call dissections. We call it squishy science because they, you know, the younger kids may or may not enjoy that. But I'm just really seeing that engagement, and especially when you're looking at those kids at the end of the day or the end of the week, depending on if they're at a camp, because we also do camps or whatever, and they come up to you and they're like, I never knew that I could do this. I never knew that this is something that I would ever like to do. And this is really, I'm going to start learning more about this. Or you see the parent that's like, oh my gosh, after coming to camp this week, all we're doing now is researching and reading about X at home. That's what's really rewarding to us. Challenges, you know, the biggest challenge for me, I will say, coming from the education world, is learning the business end of a business. Because you're looking at, as I was talking to my CEO today, I'm a practitioner. That is my knowledge base and my strength. Give me, you know, I can help anybody, any teacher with engaging strategies. And how do you work this lesson to make sure it meets standards and those types of things. But then looking at the business end of it, how am I going to make this profitable? How am I going to make sure my staff are properly trained? That one's not so hard. But looking at, that's a challenge for me. But I think probably the most challenging is just making sure that we are, as a overall arching, is just keeping everything current, because science and tech change so quickly. Keeping the exhibits on the floor updated and relevant, and keeping what we're doing with our students and our teachers in the classrooms relevant is challenging.
So I find rewarding those kind of small moments with individuals. The moment when you see someone in your tour group have an aha moment of, oh, I get that now, or oh yes, that connects to me personally and I can see why it's really important, or oh, I see how that science connects. That is an amazing thing to see. But I have to say, what's most rewarding for me is seeing the outcomes for the students, like seeing them come into TGen at the beginning of the summer, wide-eyed, not even being able to find the bathroom, to the end of the summer when, I mean, you'd think they ran the place, and they kind of do, you know, and that's just amazing. The time that I would say I'd really pinpoint is with our new high school program. A lot of that is around leadership and kind of finding who you are in the science world, so that when they come into a lab, it's not a shock to know what lab culture is like, and they know what a leader looks like in science. So we actually had a panel for other teachers about what the program was like, and I had the students come back and be on the panel, and one of the students said, so first of all, I wouldn't be able to talk to you on this panel if it wasn't for Bioscience Leadership Academy. I wouldn't be up in front of you. And then she told the story about her interview day and how, you know, she usually did not try out for these things. The teacher really encouraged her, which is something amazing that teachers do every day. And so she almost didn't even go to the interview. She didn't think she had it in her. She didn't have the confidence. Finally, her sister made her go to TGen and get in that interview room. And she said she got in the chair and she was nervous and she was stuttering and she didn't know what to do. She said she looked at me, one of her interviewers, and I smiled at her, and she knew I was on her side. That is amazing. That from the very beginning, that first time you interact with a student, how much of an impact that can have on them still gives me goosebumps. And to know that even beyond that, she was accepted into the program because she could be herself. And then in the program, she gained the confidence to be able to stand up in front of a lot of adults and tell her story so artfully. That is amazing. That is rewarding. Now, for the challenges, I couldn't take every student that applied for that program. there are kids that are going to be in our programs, and then there are some that are going to have to keep applying. And for some of these students, it's the first time they're told no, or the first time they failed, especially for students that are used to being able to ace through their classes. Why couldn't I get this too? But that's a really important experience too. I tell them your perseverance is so important, and you're going to hit some failure. That's what science is. You just keep failing until you get it. Like, that is the fun challenge, right? Like, you got to get there, but you got to fail first. And so oftentimes, TGen, if you're in the program or not, we could potentially be your first experience with heart failure. And so helping students through that and see as a challenge that's really important for them, that can be challenging. Another thing that's challenging is there are so many things you could do, and really narrowing it down to what you're going to be really good at can be really challenging. So you have to have thoughtful about what you decide you are going to do and what things are off the table for that year.
From the human resources side of actual K-12 schools, I think the teacher turnover is absolutely the greatest challenge that we face. The number of bright-eyed, wonderful, caring, idealistic, driven people who choose to leave the profession within the first 3 to 5 years. It's definitely, in a state like Arizona with the teacher shortage that we have, not only a frustrating challenge, but one that no doubt impacts students across our state. So I share that first to say the most rewarding part of my job is figuring out what we can do to better support them, to create the type of culture where teachers feel cared for and supported and heard. Some things are a little out of our control, right? Being the 49th out of 50 states with per pupil funding, we don't have that much influence over, and we sadly do lose teachers who want to do crazy things like pay off their student loans and own a home and things like that. But what is rewarding is thinking about what are the things that are within our locus of control we can do as a network to make them happy, satisfied, and successful so they stick around.
Thank you. Discuss the importance of relevant experience, for instance, an internship or volunteer work.
I'm actually going to circle back to your fail fast. So my very first internship was as a junior in high school, and I got a scholarship and an internship to study under an environmental engineer in the middle of the Klamath Forest to study the effects of the local lake on the Shasta Native American house pit sites. So digging in, yes. I know the square. I know being completely covered in dirt for weeks on end and having to hike to a shower. Mm-hmm. So I understand all of that. And that exposure in high school showed me I'm going to be an environmental engineer. I'm going to do it. This is my path. This is what I want to do. I want to figure out a way that I can create a portable desalination unit that you can take to areas that don't have access to clean water and have to hike miles to get good water. So I was on that path. I went to college. I studied engineering. I was going down the path of environmental engineering. I was really, really good at computer science, but I really was going down this path of environmental engineering because I was stuck in my head. This is what I was going to do. And then as a junior going into my senior year of college, I actually got an internship at a computer company, leaning on my computer science background to flash Linux onto servers and desktops and create custom Linux solutions. And I had the absolute best time of my life. And that fell fast. I had the decision, 21 units left to graduate. Do I get my environmental engineering degree or do I switch it up and take the hard pill and do something that's really, really cool? And I sucked it up, stayed in school for an additional 2.5 years. But it was the right thing to do because it led me on the path that I'm on today. And it was the right path. So absolutely, 100%. Completely encourage, and I tell students that I encounter all the time, start interning if you can in high school, because you never know what you want to do when you grow up. And you know what ends up being what you do may surprise you. It's the exposure and the experience that really, really determines what's even an opportunity for you.
I would agree that exposure is really key. You know, so many kids that I've been involved with over the years in public ed. They have very limited contacts in the world. And so providing students the opportunity to have experiences and gain access to different professionals or different experiences really, really important, because like you said, you don't know what you don't know. You had a wonderful experience that then you thought, oh my gosh, this is going to lead you down this path. And so a lot of what we do, because those experiences are so key, is trying to provide students those opportunities for those experiences to broaden their horizons, to give them a greater idea of what all is out there in the world. And then when they are experiencing those types of, whether it's a volunteering or an internship for an older student, or even with the younger students, just different experiences, you know, whether it's a certain kind of camp in a forest, or taking a group of kids to San Diego and letting them explore in an oceanography where they're sailing in the ocean for animals. Looking and observing and making sure you're asking questions and realizing that the knowledge you gain in this experience, whether it's a 3-hour experience or a 3-month experience, that is going to give you ideas to really figure out what you want to do moving forward. So whether it was in the classroom or whether it's now in what we do at the Science Center, it's ask questions, observe, dig in. There's no stupid question, you know, stay after and just talk and learn. And, you know, it's very important, because again, you don't know what you don't know. And I would not have any idea what I would be doing in my current field if it wasn't a lot of the experiences that I've had.
So I would say, at least for the science side, you kind of need that internship to get your feet wet and really see what it is to be in a laboratory. And if you graduate without it, it's a lot harder to get a job. In education, you know, if you want to do education outside the classroom, somewhere like TGen, where you're managing education and outreach, things like that, you know, it's not like I could get a education outreach manager degree, you know, right, at ASU, or even knew I should at the time. But I think what really helped me is that I always knew I enjoyed teaching, but I also had this real love for archaeology. So I was in graduate school and working hard on my anthropology degree, but as a hobby, you know, and I think you kind of speak to this too, that like I would go to the organizations I knew I could volunteer with, where I could get in front of a group of kids and tell them how cool owl pellets are, you know, or, you know, develop lesson plans for different organizations that they could give to teachers who I know are pressed for time and might really appreciate those extra things. And so that once I did make that turn and realize that I was going to go from archaeology to something more education focused, I could still go back to those experiences I had outside of school and show, as you can see, I have been engaging in this, even if it wasn't my main piece of study. So I see that an internship and volunteer work can help supplement what you're already doing, but it can also help you explore these different things that you can then go back to and show that it's something that you have always been engaged with, and it makes your career path a little bit more flexible, if that makes sense.
So in terms of relevant experience for K-12, I think it's teacher training, right? And so I think if you are a math or a science major and decide late in your college career you want to become a teacher, like the most ideal situation is to take those extra 2.5 years and make the investment in becoming trained, becoming certified, learning the science, the art of teaching, because being able to understand calculus doesn't always translate into the ability to write a unit plan, write a measurable objective, effectively use formative assessment during your instruction to modify and adjust, or how to handle a disruptive student, right? So I think staying in school and getting that training concurrently is ideal. I also know that financially it's just not possible for everyone. So the next best option is to do it concurrently, right? You start to teach while you were taking some of your classes. I don't know if some of the programs Wendy described allow you to do that, but I mean, that's the next best thing. But then back to the first question where I talked about a sense of calling, a sense of mission, it's really required because the first year of teaching is draining enough as it is. Then to take night classes as well is something that is really hard for some folks. And if you can't do both of those things, then I think you say, hey, I think I can teach. It's not going to be that hard. I know I can do it. Then you just have to really have your ducks in a row in terms of making a smart choice relative to who you work with, right? It needs to be an organization that really has a very clear support system in place to train people without an educational background and a strong mentoring program to help you along as well.
What advice would you offer to students looking to enter your industry or explore your maybe functional area aspect?
So I'm actually another side. So I have a lot of side jobs. The great thing about Intel is it does give that flexibility to play in your passion areas. So I am one of my organizational recruiters. So I get to talk to high school students and college students all the time. Our organization hires 70% computer science and computer engineering. That's a lot of very specific skill sets. So if you want to come into my organization, computer science, computer engineering is great. But don't stop at a bachelor's. You're looking at a master's at minimum. Because once again, competition into Intel is extremely, extremely hard. I'll give you an example. For every open internship and or brand new role, we get anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 applications. So it is extremely difficult to get into the company if you're going in blind. But if you are able to talk to a recruiter, to see them face to face, and to have those connections that people can say, I talked to this person and I remember them, that's the way to get in. And that's the way to be recognized. And also when you present your resume, look at your resume as a way for it to sing your praises when you're not in its presence. So your resume should be able to say exactly what you did, exactly what the impact was, and the measurable outcomes. So where someone like me looking at it can go, okay, this person can really code in R, or they know how to write algorithms to be able to do data science work that we need in this specific area. So the look, not as important. We're tech. Everyone's looking at me today going, where are you going? Because I'm not in jeans, I'm not in a t-shirt, I'm not in sneakers. So I was like, I'm kind of gonna be in front of people, so I wanted to semi-look nice. So that's the cool thing about being in tech. You need to really just be yourself. And that's really the best advice I can give, whether you want to be in tech or whether you want to be in education. Be your authentic self. Don't put on the mask that you want the person to perceive you to be. Be who you are, because that's going to shine better than anything. And that's going to win you whatever you're trying to accomplish.
So advice, looking to enter the informal learning world, the informal education world. We've got a lot of opportunities for a lot of different levels in the Arizona Science Center and in the museum world. So the best advice I would have is come in, look around, see first of all if this is someplace that you think you would like to be. Do you think it's fun, engaging? Can you see yourself in this environment? And if so, just go out and make sure that you, again, on your resume, sing your praises. Again, a lot of the employees that we have at the center are science majors, but not all. And so we have a lot of students from ASU and U of A and things that come in, and they're working in our different positions on our floor as Blue Crew or in our guest experience advisors. So just come in, be your authentic self, make sure that you are presenting who you are, and just be friendly and energetic when you come in for our, for jobs there. Again, other type of advice is just making sure that, just FYI, we do always check everybody's LinkedIn and Instagram and all those kinds of things. So check your social media profiles. Make sure there's nothing on there you wouldn't want your grandma to see, or employer to see. And just make sure that you want to dress for success when you come in for interviews. We do have uniforms at the Science Center for the people who are out on the floor. But when you come in for your interview, you do want to, you want to look, you don't have to come in a three-piece suit, but you also don't want to come in in your cutoff shorts and your t-shirt. Some nice khakis or pants and a t-shirt, and you're good to go. But again, just be yourself.
Yes, be yourself. And also be interested in people. I think that sometimes people will feel that they need to do is check the box. They'll be like, well, I will need research before I graduate so I get a job. Okay, great. But what are you really going to get at TGen, and why TGen? TGen wants to know that you have that other kind of extra connection to it. There's going to kind of be that why question that you'll want to think about. Or they'll say, well, I have to meet you, and now I know you from TGen, so now I can get something from TGen. Again, let's think about, okay, be your authentic self, and then be interested in the person in front of you too, and in actually thinking about that relationship and not just what that end might be from that conversation or event or whatever it might be. And I think that's one way to build a stronger network. It's small, but thank you notes are amazing. It can be an email, but I have to say nobody uses snail mail anymore. So if you actually write a note of thank you to someone who gives you an informational interview or who took the time in a networking environment that really give you a lot of great advice, a thank you note is amazing. You want to make a good first impression, but if you want to make a lasting impression, that thank you note really does it. And then otherwise, try not to limit yourself. Think about all the different places where you might work, from the nonprofit sector to a school to whatever it is. Keep an open mind about where you might find a good fit, because you just never know where you're going to come to that. And that's true with volunteer work or internships too. With Helios Scholars at TGen, we have 2 students that work with us every summer that specifically work on the programmatic details of our internship and high school program. So there actually are summer jobs that you could get working on that program, but it's not as well advertised because there's only 2. We advertise the program. So say that you see a program that you're like, I really love to see the back end of that, to see how they do it. You can reach out and find out about it. So just keep an open mind and keep thinking about relationships and what those mean longer term.
I think my mind went a really different direction in terms of answering this question, because, and I think it's just the nature of our work, right? In public education in Arizona, we don't get 2,000 to 4,000 applicants. We're lucky to get 2 to 4, really. And so the opportunity in education, I'd love to interview and hire them. I could talk about that all day. But I think really the best advice I would give you is just ensure that you're embarking on a path that you're committed to and you want to go down, right? And so I think the best way to probably do that, I think we think that, oh, everyone feels like they understand education because we all went to school, right? We all went to elementary school and high school, but living it from the other side is very different. So I think if you're thinking about education, just try to immerse yourself and learn a little bit more about the experience. And what's nice is, like, your fall break and your spring break, typically there'll be public schools here in the city that are not on break during that time. So it's just a matter of figuring out who those are, reaching out to their human resources department or a principal and saying, I'd love to come. I want to volunteer for a week, and that you'll have the B word. You'll have like, yes, please come, and spend a week in a teacher's classroom, not just during instruction, but like see what they do during their prep. Go to their grade level meetings or their department meetings. Go to their faculty meetings, because you'll spend a lot of time in those. People have strong feelings about them. Don't stalk them and go home with them at night, but ask that teacher the next day when you see them in the morning, what'd you do? Listen to how much time they spent, grading papers or lesson planning on the couch, so that you can at least make an informed opinion. Not so that it will necessarily scare you off, but so that you understand a little bit. Most people understand the beauties and the joys of teaching, right, that come along with it. But so you also understand a little bit more about the challenges you'd be embarking on if you go down that road as well.
Thank you. And kind of a follow-up question to that, or what are some maybe specific opportunities that each of your organization has to get involved with volunteering or internships?
Okay, not as much on a volunteering basis, but internships, we always have internships available. And they're on our website called at intel.com/jobs. I'll put that out there. But once again, lots of people apply to those. It really depends on your background and what you want to do. I always say inside of Intel, there's a job for everything. We do everything from soup to nuts when it comes to actually creating our products. We have huge environmental systems. We have huge embedded power systems. We have, of course, the engine when it comes to designing our chips, to building our chips, to manufacturing our chips, to dealing with the supply chain, to shipping our chips. And then you have corporate affairs, which deals with external, volunteering in the environment or in the community, and what are the different programs from a corporate perspective we want to align to, working with government, etc. So there is so much opportunity at our company. It's all on our website if you're interested.
Well, we actually have lots and lots of opportunities for volunteers. We have a nice volunteer program that if you're interested in just kind of seeing what we have going on, you can come in, and we've got opportunities to volunteer on the floor. So you can, again, be one of the people that goes around the Blue Crew and interacts with guests on a daily basis, whether it's, on the floor doing particular activities or helping. We have a fries free weekend and other large events where it's open to anybody and everybody free of charge. And we need all kinds of volunteers to come in and help sell water to people or provide water if they're standing outside in line, to coming in and doing activities with kids. And then we also have our ham shack, our radio shack that's up in one of our exhibits. It's all run through volunteers. We also have internship opportunities in almost every one of our areas, whether it's marketing, analytics, human resources, etc. We have lots of opportunities, especially during the summer, for college students and educators alike to come in and be our camp counselors and our instructors for camps during the summer and fall break, spring break, and winter break. So we have lots of opportunities there. Also, we're always hiring for what we call our Blue Crew, which are our guest interpreters that are out on the floor, also interacting with guests on a daily basis. So lots and lots of opportunities from volunteering to employment and everything in between.
Well, I kind of jumped the gun on this one. I already told you about it.
Yeah.
We have positions to help with our programming just in the summer, and really only 2. But like I said, it's not as well advertised as our actual science internships. So if it's something you're interested in, it will go up at jobs.tgen.org. But you can also contact our office for more information before that goes live.
But naturally, we're a network of schools. We're always looking for volunteers. You're always welcome in that sense. We do have some intern opportunities. Those are available on ASU Prep's website. Convenience factor for you there is that many of our interns actually work out of our network offices, and that's here, right? So PD West is one of our network offices, and so you can, if you don't have that much time and you don't have transportation, you could actually do an internship with us right here on campus. But really, I think though, if you're looking for a full-time internship and you have that sort of capacity in terms of availability, I would look just for hourly work with ASU Prep. We are funded by per pupil funding, so our salaries on benefits are not wildly different than other teaching places in K-12 education in Arizona, but we have one amazing perk through the generosity of the university, and that's the full-time employees at ASU Prep get up to 12 credit hours free tuition here at the university. And so back to Wendy's program she was talking about, if a person feels like I now know I want to teach, but I can't just stay in school and go in more debt, they can come to work for us and then do those courses at night and online, and then get that teaching degree without going into debt to do it, and then jump into the classroom. It's a great benefit to perk we're able to offer.
I was going to say too, and I meant to say, I believe that all of our camp positions are actually advertised on ASU's Lodestar program or site. So if that's something that would be of interest to any of you, check it out there.
Well, thank you all for being here and sharing your knowledge with our students. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.